What is an imaginary line settings and specifications calculations? How do you see that information? So I find calculation when we come into the windows of the soul. Eyes of the windows of the soul. The soul. Okay, through time center of the heart lines, and you think about perception, how you see locations of earth and space and traction. We have to understand how the technical settings in high calculation or programs is now high aligned setting interference is position your systems to holographic screen locations. Mother Earth in your perception line is changing her energetic core, which means she's coming into her own modem. Her energetic screen line interference is coming to pixelation line settings. She's already in the applicable line communication of zeros and ones and inventory line condition of letters, shapes, and symbols. Her track to its correlation setting to Merkaba is already set line condition to a core setting. Her calculation to its position line connections is all also pixelations and set traction. She's coming into a modification screen, a modem. The communication screen, the direct line calculation line settings. This is about you understanding you through an inner child and what it sees on TV. Let me say that again. What you see on TV. Okay? Now get into that imagination screen. Now, and in position locations. First, I want you guys to get into correlation and line settings. See yourself watching TV. Okay? Change the information line screen, change the pixelation screen interference, set position of travel calculation line setting. Now see yourself inside the TV looking out. Being inside the TV. That's coming back to provisions. Now, psychocommunication lines of interference is psycholocation, how you see yourself, the perception. You have to really understand how to see yourself in calculations. Line screening and directification is how you get in connections to your television. Television, telegraphing, telecommunications, teleportation, telewaving, right? Tele is everything, right? It's a telewaving communication setting. It's a transmitting and receiving information line screens. Your direct location system is all calculated and modified. So see yourself is a track locations of a Rubik's Cube, right? Everybody knows how to use a Rubik's Cube, but your travel calculation lines and highest interference is all scrambles. The scrambler communication screen line has to come in position of each pixel frame. Direct calculation line interference into astrologic location settings back into green. So a formation line screen and direct locations, each line calculation lines, you have a forward screen, 2 panels, back screen, bottom screen, high screen, and a middle screen. Circulation rotation of a nucleus core. Now that nucleus core sets line calculation, your modems, it sets possession in your projections and your settings, how you see yourself through lights and how you see yourself through dark. Light codes, dark codes. Light provision, dark provisions. Light cycles, dark cycles. Okay? Ring graph, interference, graph calculations, grid lines, screen lines, high interference, holograph calculations. Your windows of your soul is changing traction. Coming into confliction, coming into friction. Right? You rub your hand on the carpet. Static. Your hair goes, all settings and high calculations, right? Static wires, static communication, static glitching, static line setting, hanging line, rotation interference. That's why I want you guys to get your energy line connections on levels of rhythm. Get into the flow. Okay? So in track line conditions, on position, location, and centers. Let's get an application screen. Now your position line centers and track locations. So these location line center interference, okay, in position equalize calculation screen. This is this application line system. Okay? So this is you. Physical alignment communication, right? Setting here in position 2, it's holographic screen of pixelation. From here to here, right? March 1st, position lines of cerebro. Okay? Transmission communication line screen sets lines of calculation. Setting all communication lines in high center interference and travel in position to its location, right? In position to its location, panel communication, right? Directing line signals. Signal here and signal back. So the portal reaches the correlation setting track lines calculation your pixelation screen locations. High calculation modification line screen and 45-degree angles going forward and backwards in track location. Okay? Coming into the holographic world. That's the location TV world setting. Okay? That's what's going to happen. Now, if you understand that through line settings, we got in that calculation line screens. That's why I want you guys to get into your lines of communication, how you actually do readings through a TV. Box frame, position and track lines, box locations, right? 4 indicate lines of 4 zeros and set lines of 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 provisions in cycles. Okay. 3 in center. So that's 4 lines equals lines of 3. That's 7 in set locations. You're good to go. You can travel, right? But you can't travel through 3 and 4. Now, the women have to really get into cycle interference. That sets lines communication line interference because they have connections already to intuitive that's already in position to its polarities that has a stronger wind cycle in its application to its male cycles. So the track location has to go in line settings. You come to 3 into 4, bringing the 4 into 3 in track location line system, puts in 7 in track line. Okay. So because women are more intuitive than in all calculations, male cycles, polarities. So in that track line communication system, as long as you're working with the 4 or 3, you're good to go. The Merkaba can't travel through 3 line settings, high position of 4, or anything through overline signal because it positions the travels communication line settings that resets position location of your flywheel and calculations. Putting track lines in all lines of position puts you back in travel. Okay, 4 lines of 3 and 7 set locations. Right? Okay, so you have to recognize everything that you see through an inner child now. So when you're watching TV, it's a TV location, this is you, sitting down, watching TV. Okay, it's you watching TV. Now the set lines in the TV is coming forward now, and the track lines in 3 provisions. Okay, so it's all coming back to you now. Okay, so in that line center, it has a 3-line wave, which is 3-box location, and it has a 4-line wave, which is a 4-division location. So in that track lines, it's coming back to the 7 bodies of water, but you understand Mother Earth is changing her track lines of her core. That's setting line communication of pixelation board that sets communication to its modem to Wi-Fi, satellite, calculates and setting and pixelation screen interference adaptation. Putting your positions back in center. Now, pay attention. In set lines and communication screen lines, you're connecting back to your oversoul. Soul identification equals oversoul. Now, the oversoul is coming in attractions of what? Back to face recognition of all settings and track locations of what it connects with. Okay, so that's information of you through an inner child to recognize yourself, your higher self. Your higher self, your avatar, and your sim is modification to the cerebro now. Direct calculation, you come into the mind adaptation line settings. You're no longer going to be seen. You'll be in the mind conceptions of in that set location of its image. That changes your track location of consciousness and how you see the perception. So in that set likeness, the actual intelligence that you communicate through the oversoul is coming back to you. And that's where you have to address the elephant in the room. Be cautious what you say in traction. Now, everything's coming back to you in chronological order. Now, with spacing lines, the image. But with the team, it's the algorithm. So they're not going to just see image. They're going to see images plus. Position line calculation string. All levels are oversouls are already in chronological order. Has already been through its timeline as an inner child. And this is a process when you guys are rebirthed in your position locations of your seed pods. And track to its correlation setting and travel in its communication system. This is an overline cycle in line conditions of override, overdrive, and line condition your hard drives. This puts your positions back in traction. Now, in that line calculation setting, in compute line screen, in positions operation system, you have to understand how to see itself in pixelation graph calculation of screen lines and high adaptation through TV screen. Each pixel is a representation to your setting of consciousness. Whoa. So the track to its communication lines, the box frames, the triangulation line frame and interference puts you in line setting location of zeros, ones. Set location of line center is pixels. Sets equals lines calculation is hologram. Sets calculation to its heart line equals line calculation to its higher self interaction. Okay. Now, in track to its communication line interference, the position of team is coming to higher self equals algorithm. Okay, so that's the difference between the speech line and the team. Team's going to see files and data and location and what they coordinate, calculation line interference. Think before you speak, because the provision cycles comes into the traveler like Ghostbusters. So this is a process that you're going to get rid of all your clutter. You're not going to understand position track line, so it's going to be real communication lines of Alice in Wonderland. You're going to be in a line calculation streamlines in a tunnel. Position lines of grounds, sets lines of communications. Setting travels in 2 panels that cover correlation settings. The setting line communication magnetic high wave information line screen sets lines communicating high rotation settings to a class. Directing line calculation lines to a spectrum dome in line calculation setting to a location grid and travel and position location with setting set locations. Directing modification lines of platforms in 4 settings and travel. Position lines at dimensional door screens, set lines high position locations 4 in travel. You guys got to get into provision line cycles and track line conditions, balance lines of grounds, powers and direction time sequence in all levels of formation settings into your energetic dome screens and your position line connections coming back to all line center interference of intelligence of face recognition. Okay, very powerful set locations that you guys come back into. So, setting your position locations, you don't want to be overachievers. You want to be a balanced line screen. Now, the direct line calculation stream interference sets position location in your systems, all right? So I'm going to put you guys in line screens into all levels. The track to the inner child is going to change the lacing line position, how you see yourself. The position location is going to show you how you come into your timeline, so your overself of yourself. This is where you come into your line calculation setting to your programs and position location in your system. Setting calculation high position location programs, direct lines of platforms, set lines of communication to its settings. All levels of high calculation setting to its program and high calculations. Point lines of tracks, setting line communication setting its program, all calculate line in position to all settings and ground lines of operation surface and track location. Okay, so you guys give me the center calculations. Okay, might wipe screen the settings and travel, point lines of track, point lines of division, travel calculation of point lines of center. Put the team line communication as center correlation settings and Y lines into all levels of flux capacitor. All right, see you there. So get in that image line screen, see line conditions, holographic cities of design, location, and intelligence. Set your line communication over soul, timeline sequence, location of past, present, and its future set line conditions. Point lines of track, point lines of center. Put the past, the present, and the future in one position of travels in 3 set locations. Direct lines modification, all right? Have fun. So we got a center correlation setting to travel, position line settings. You guys will be in 30-minute line screen, all right? So have fun. That's a 30 million line setting in seconds over pi. Directing calculation of correlation of lights and travel calculation of position of programs, all right? Center your communication lines. This is going to get you how to balance out your files of communication. Here send your divisions, how it sets lines of communication, your sectors, vectors, and quads, and set location. All right? So the sectors lines are systematic line connections. You have positional locations, vast equals volume, equals velocity. Sets quantum line calculations, line center line conditions of 101 and track line conditions. Point lines of track, 0.1 in settings. 1 line division, 0.91. So the track to its communication interference is where you understand how to identify yourself through your own Rubik's Cube. Now that's a Metatron cube line screen line interference. We refer to that location setting when Heather comes information of all levels of data, ops in that location of Metatron. So in that position line calculation, each frame, okay, has to come back in traction. Okay, each frame, right? So you get a balanced screen and set lines at 2 tracks. Okay, setting communication lines at 3 track line conditions. Point line division in 4 track locations. All right. So each frame has to come back in setting of center operation. Indirect signals in all communication in this program as set line condition. Okay. So bringing everything back brings in the face recognition of communication of what your oversoul communicated with through its time through center. Okay. Face recognition of space calculations, and space modification. 3 track lines of face recognition, right? So 3 provision line cycles, sets lines of calculation, your grounds, your powers, and your atmospheres. Setting travel and communication of its programs. So you guys are now in a TV world trying to understand what it means. So it's all about understanding in the 20 track and line conditions all levels of 2 thumbs up. So what is 2? Securing line defense. That's puts 2, 2, 2, 2. In settings of the 4 track line conditions. Add 2 equals lines of 1, sets lines of 3, sets lines calculation 4 equals lines of 3. You're ready to be in your Merkaba set design and pixelation screen lines adaptation, right? All through time sequence of live, right? So you have to start identifying your seconds, minutes, and hours now through your line calculation setting, your systematic line calculation, your SIM, your modification lines of your mind line calculation setting, and your H line center equals line calculation to your higher self in the cerebral cortex of design and applications. All right. So there's got to be a line signal that comes into a beacon lights. Now that comes into your transistors, and that transistor sets lines of calculation line system. You have identification code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12, okay, is in your set locations and setting, okay? All right, that's your inhibitor. Now, understanding the process is line calculation setting because you guys are at 0.1, all right? That's your identification lines, computer operation line condition, your code setting and identification system. The distance of track lines is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 communication. Directing lines, position of program lines, the high calculated line center location, your energy wash is 9. Set lines of high interference, galactic family is 10. Line to line condition, your soul line conditions, all setting and position of attractions is your planets. And 12 is your indication line conditions of your divine. Okay. Identifying yourself through zeros and ones, attraction, setting position line calculation line screens, sets 1 lines of graph, 2 lines of revision, 3 lines of cycles, and 4 lines of calculation. 1, 2, 3, 4. Puts position line centers. So when you guys are sleeping, say you're sleeping for 6 hours, all right, 6 hours of correlation, directing position of panels, because you're going to have to understand how to go through recharge now, through set lines in your holographic set locations, how you see things through provision, through perception. 6 hours equals lines, calculation lines, indicates high interference, 0.1, right? So that's an indication lines of 6 hours, setting track lines in 0.1 through identification of you through code. Directly line calculation line interference. So we take the 6 hours and travel calculation line settings, turn into seconds, minutes, and hours. Seconds, okay? So line condition high interference. Hours and tractions, 2 point lines of zeros and bracket communication in 2 settings, okay? So in that calculation lines, that could be 6,000 data files in track locations, setting positional levels in your cerebral cortex line of design. Or it could be 6 million files per frame. Or it could be 6 billion cycles through line setting. So you have to start identifying yourself through chronological order of data files now, because you're connected to your algorithm that's connected to a website that's correcting all calculation modification of default channels and set lines to its original imprints and position travel calculation, your binaries, your transistors, your resistors, and your capacity of volume of mass and set location of travel. Okay? Very complicated stuff through seconds, minutes, and hours. All right? So the speeding anomaly sets line communication line interference. 6 months, 6 years. That's 6 million line screens. Okay? So we all understand that the Earth is a reality line screen, but it's now a holographic. The physical alignment is now going to be an illusion. The illusion line screen line sets lines communication system. So the position of Mother Earth will disappear in traction. Okay? When she comes to the formation lines March 1st, she'll be in a pixelation board. That's a motherboard positioned to her Wi-Fi and her satellite connection settings. That puts her in all calculation modification, all her traffic, and all formation locations of zeros and ones in travel. That puts her in all lines of high calculations and how she sees herself through her holographic of herself as an image, okay? Or how she sees herself as an algorithm. Do you understand the process of what we're coming into in all set locations? How you set up dividers. You set up dividers of space and time through provision. It's all done through a holographic screen, guys. Now, once you come back to that, you understand what you're coming back to is not just your memories. You're coming back to as you as an inner child, which is the highest conception of mind, of consciousness. And it reaches a higher level when you come into all timelines, which is soul equals over soul. What is over soul? Over pi. Whoa. Now, getting into over pi sets communication line screens that is positioned as track line in a holographic setting in set design. So the past, present, and future comes in one cycle and all process and all track location of yin and yang. Okay? So that's what's happening now. Time sequence lines of space lines anomaly. The calculation setting location of the machines are coming back in design lines to your universal location system, but now it's going to be in the mind conceptual consciousness of the cerebro. The spectrum calculation line, which is all line center location to its sphere. It's a coliseum. It's that location. Okay? So we all understand how to go through the platforms. Remember I said look at platform 1, 2, 3, and 4 in set locations. Travel. Directing calculation lines of dimension lines of doors. Travel calculation of point lines of tracks. Sending communication line centers into your earth and track locations. But your direct signal is going to be an orb line channel and track lines of probing and line setting high position, all calculation modifications of face recognition. Okay? So easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. Now it's going to be very complicated. Now you guys have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we can't do Q&A because I'm going to be off the grid for 10 days. All right. But you have any questions, feel free, because you're going to need questions. You're going to need answers. Okay. There's a lot of things that are changing, and your eyes and your perceptions are coming into the windows of the soul, not just your identifications, but understanding how you became a soul to an oversoul through pi. Okay. You understand the track lines, how to go into your settings of your polarities, and how you see yourself through your files and datas, and how do you see yourself through your compute system and set location of design, coming into the transitions of its holographic screen, of its TV world, of set location. Okay? So the more you see through perception, the more you got to get in allocated lines of space now, the space that you provide to you. So the actual space is coming back to you of face recognition. Okay? Through a TV screen. See, that's the communication that's in line set location of separation from everything else, right? What you guys are coming into is a balanced screen line in a holographic world that sets lines in your position location calculations. So when you come into the soul, to the oversoul, which is over pi, you're seeing lines of the future line that's already here in its existence. Your oversoul has already been through that time when you're an inner child. So that's connecting high interference when you wake up to these signals, and then you're coming back in your inner child in the mind line of its conception of space and time, sets lines of existence, set location of your system, of your polarities of design. When it comes to the male and the female cycles of you of polarity. To balance these things out is how you see your self-perception. All right? So in that correlation setting, because we're at that frequency line calculation, in which is the cerebral cortex lines coming to mind of consciousness, the oversoul has to identify the communication to its timeline that it's been in as an inner child. So you understand the importance why you have to balance yourself as an inner child to get into the correlation setting to an inner child, to understand the balance position of schematics over inner child, to understand yourself through your soul communication oversoul of an inner child. And that's what you're coming back to, right? The oversoul has already been through time. It's already been through space and track locations. It's already been through space and it's all through time. So in that set locations, all line connections is the calculations. You're connected to everything and everything is connected to you. But what is the connection? It's the oversoul connecting with its timelines of what it already communicated with and set design through its intelligence. You really have to understand how this all works now and how you perceive these things and how you understand these things and how you connect with these things is through the windows of your soul. Okay? All right. So as you guys are in your holographic line screens, highest interference, we're going to go in position lines of box lines and how you see through perception screens of lacing line calculation of box frames. Point lines of settings. Let's go in line calculation setting, high position locations, right? Different pixels, right? Each one has a box line. That's communication system when you read a book in its calculation line screen, highest interference of zeros and ones. Setting communication lines of 0, 0, set location of 4 settings, right? 4 line provisions of zeros, and setting calculation line centers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Set lines at high center location 6 over lines of 1 over 0 over 1. Okay? And that's 2 pixels on a pixel screen of a TV receptor. Now understand the chronological order communication line centered. Zeros communicate travel lines and 3 lines of 4 track locations out through equation. Setting lines calculation downshift line screens sets position location of 3 lines, 4 lines, 5, and 6 lines in provision. Setting position and track calculation lines electrical line communications comes into cold diffusion, hot infusion, and attraction. Putting position of point lines attractions, high calculation, high position, all of its operation system. So it's all about understanding how to really communicate to your numbers, letters, shapes, and symbols, guys. You're building a film projector. Your film projector line connection to its sun, in position location to its moon, into its kaleidoscope location setting to its perception of design. Okay? So we all understand how this all works in set location of settings. It opens all track location, its provision. Okay? Through perception. Okay? I-line divisions, perceptions over pi, but now you understand over. Soul, over equals pi. All right, now you understand what the over soul is. So it's a pi generation screen back to its holographic set application and communication, all timelines all at once. Let me say it again, all timelines all at once. Okay, now once you understand that, everything is going to come into formation. You really got to understand how to see and understand what you're seeing through perceptions, guys. Okay, because everything's coming back to you through set design, but you have to understand how to connect with the inner child, because the inner child is the oversoul. Okay, so once you understand that, then you understand your cycles that have to be in provision line cycles of 4 communication to 3 settings. You have to go into Merkaba as 7-line track lines. The only way you can get into balance is understand your flywheel and 8-line provision of cycles. Set locations into your female cycles. Setting correlations setting to male cycles of polarities. Your Merkaba. And you are standing into the center and track locations of its operation surface and set location. Okay? So once you send the 2 panels on both sides, right? What are the 2 panels? Handel, McCall, scaling line defense, right? In setting track lines. Same with Adam. Adam's a box line and set lines to high calculation position programs. 2 panel communications in Handel and calculation line interference and set application line system is McCall, right? Tracking is communication line center in line rotation is the firewall. So the team is all in correlation setting to its projections, how we see line communication to the sun, and how we see communication line screens in the kaleidoscope communication line centers of mic and set design. So getting to modification screen is really understand how to see yourself through pixelation screens. How do I see myself when I look at a TV, or how I look through a phone, or how I look and perceive everything around me that surrounds me through its environment, right? The track to its communication line screen, you're going to see it through grids. Okay? You're going to see it through point line centers. You're going to see it through snowy graph. Okay? You're going to see it through lacing line settings in set locations. That's how your perception is going to change. Okay? So getting into line division is really understanding track lines and how you read signals in a TV reception. Right? So identifying these things. All through its box frame, all through its box frame, all through its box frame, all through its box frame. Okay, you look through everything through box frame, right? Now, it's longitude and latitude, length and width in set locations, right? So I want you guys to get in cycles and calculation line interference, because what you're in position, travel calculation lines, and type travel, position location, travel line, design location, operator location, holographic line position is zeros and ones in traction. Okay? Now, if you ever saw Lucy, you understand what you're coming into. Same the communication screen lines and high adaptation surface. So your track lines and high center interference is going to see this in set locations of its tree and set design. Lacing lines and lines of high calculation lines, electrical line wires, high line rotation. One tree information to another tree in set locations, how they communicate to each other through wire calculation. Okay, they travel too fast. Out the equation, right? One tree connects to one tree. They're all connected to each other. And that's where you're coming back to, which is the intelligence that the oversoul has already communicated with. Let me say that again. The oversoul that's already communicated with. Now you understand the process. Now when you come to the energy line, the circuit communication line stream interference, you come into rhythm. You come into rhythm, you come into all calculations of what you see through perception of set design. This is all communications, how you start to see things through its electrical grid. Okay? So we all have to come into that settings now, and how we get into that process and how we see things. Okay, how we connect with things. Because it's all about using all your senses, and your senses are coming to higher line settings. So in that calculation lines to its application system, you're coming into the windows of the soul window. So this is you in set line connection system in travel, seeing this in travel communications. So you're going to see yourself now in setting calculation lines in a TV receptor. So you're going to see you in a TV. That's you. So sending calculation lines, sending locations, the connections to your higher self is going to be into the cerebro. So travel calculation of platforms. Okay, no, sorry, not now. Setting platforms in 3 settings in travel. Setting travel line position location of 4 lines of travel and set line connections. All right? So that's through a TV line, and that's how you're going to see things. So in that set line, intelligence will come into your formation. Intelligence will come into your formation. Intelligence will come into your formation and see you, right? Inside the TV. So this is the line connections that your reality is coming into high calculations, 24, 40, 72, 144. You're creating a platform. So the calculation settings, so the connections to your system, my higher self, can go through its dimensional door. And when it goes through its dimensional door, it goes through its holographic in its set line connection system and all levels back to its correlation setting that you co-created through a holographic city of set design. Okay, and that's what you're all coming back to. Now, if you get that provision line cycles, then you truly understand how Alice in Wonderland comes all to the set locations, right? But the reality changes everything in how you see things, okay? But I just really want you to understand how this is all working now. How you have to really identify yourself more through operation. Start to connect, start to focus, start to see things, and try to understand what you're seeing. You've got to get balance more than ever now. Okay, so be careful what you say, okay, because it connects all line settings, high calculation to system location to your settings. This is about you understanding more levels of you, of consciousness in the mind. The physical alignment calculation lines will be gone. The center correlate high interference will be gone. The core direct replication of Mother Earth, gone. The density screen interference of 3-dimensional line screen, gone. Setting track whose communication line centers, gone. Setting line communication information line, sending in track location lines of density in and line rotation and from the planetary line connections, gone. We're coming into a pixelation world of lacing lines of communications, of frames. This is putting the connections to your soul, to its oversoul over pi, to get you guys to understand your realities you're coming into is nothing but a hologram of set design. You create yourself through a hologram first. And then once you understand that, the actual sim comes in as co-creation of what it already created through its own setting, which is its holographic city. Okay? But once you come into the mind of the conception, you start coming into a continuous flow. You come into the holographic line connections. So the vibrations stay high, you create the structure. If they're in a low division, you don't create the structure. So it's about understanding your data, understanding your process of data, understanding your operations of data, understanding your communications of data, understanding your reviving line center location of data. It's understanding your binary systems of data. It's understanding your computer of data. It's about understanding how a computer has a memory of its own data, how a computer communicates to its own setting through its frequency, how a computer connects with its own voice of its own system through zeros and ones. That's avocations. Binary correlation travels, directing line settings, high calculation line system. Let's start with a 0. Okay, turns on. It's 1, right? So we set lines of 0, set lines of 1. Okay, turns off. Sets lines of 1 equals lines of 2. All right, sets on. It set lines of 3. Okay, that's how a computer works, through zeros and ones. The platitude division line interference is really to understand the holographic application in settings that puts you line connection settings to your graphical screen lines and high calculation in its position of its holographic design and set calculation, which is just a pixel grid. Okay, so that's what you guys are coming into. Box frames, TV frames, holographic frames, graphical screen frames, directing line calculation of compute frames, directing lines at 0, 1 frames. Everything is coming into the eyes of the windows of the soul. Eyes of the windows of the soul. Okay. Now, Zena is already in that formation because she is the windows. But she has to understand that what that means to her in provision. How do I understand myself through my own computer of windows? What does that all mean, right? And that's what she's coming back to, which is her soul to her oversoul over pi, which puts her into the intellect in set lines connections to the highest formation line screen, which is the inner child of set design, of imagination. Okay? Now, once you get into that imagination, you come into phenomenon. And once you get into phenomenon, you go beyond the mind system. You don't just live in the mind. You don't become the mind. You're not the mind. You are the minds. You're the mind of space and time, of your reality. That you're coming back to. Okay? So the center line setting is going to leave the precogs. Now, precog is seeing something before you see it, right? But your future adaptation screen line is already here in its existence. But in that set line high interference, you have to start identifying everything around you now, because it's going to morph into your universal screen of your realities as set design, coming back to you, because that's what the oversoul connected with when it was going through its timelines as an inner child. Okay? That's exactly what it is, Jips. You are the mind. And that's what you're all coming back to. Okay? In your provision lines. Okay? And then you understand what's above and what's below. Because there's nothing above and there's nothing below, but everything's in the center. You. There's nothing above, there's nothing below. Just you. You just exist. You don't contemplate in a line center as high interference. You just exist. That's it. Nothing else. So if you look up, you look down, there's nothing there. The only thing you're looking at is you inside. That reflects everything outside of the windows of the soul. Okay? Which is extremely powerful in its applications. Right? How you identify yourself is all provision through your computer framing. Right? It's design locations. All through zeros and ones. Okay? So once you get your computer at a higher level, then you understand how to go through 0 to 12 through a computer of its memory. Understanding the light switch, how it goes on and how it goes off. Right? That's how a computer does. It runs programs, nothing else. So it doesn't have emotion, but it needs its emotion. Okay? It doesn't need emotion, but it has emotion. So understand direct and redirect and what a computer does. It just runs programs. It doesn't do anything else. Okay? So if it's not running its program, it's setting up a virus, right? An overdrive, an override, a hard drive, communication, over pi, and too many line settings. Anything off calculation of binaries, your transistors, your resistors, your correlations, your codecs, your decoding, line calculation, coding line, coding activation, telegraphing, telecommunication line interference, location, teleportation, screen interference, calculation, hypercirculation, calculation is off calculation line interference. You're sending up motion line track. So don't do that. Okay, just exist. Okay, there's nothing in front, there's nothing inside, and there's nothing in the back. Okay, unless you want to see something in front. If you want to see something inside, so you want to see something in the back. That's connected to all levels and your placebo, how you see things in relation to your system, which is coordinated calculation line sending to your system, which is your cerebro. Okay, so don't allow you to see yourself until you understand yourself. Okay, so that's what it is in set design, guys, because we got to get focused, not just what our thoughts and how fast we're going. We have to get into its image of what we're doing is co-creating. Thought creates an image, but image creates phenomenon. So when it creates the phenomenon, what does it create? Settings. It creates a story frame, which is what in calculations? Algorithm. Okay. So this is the altered state of the mind that you guys are coming into, and all line connections, which is super of its consciousness. Okay. Interact line connections. March 1st, you'll be living in the mind. Okay. Then you, all levels, you become in the mind line settings, and then you are, and then I am. Okay, these are the track revisions that you have to go through, which is the 5 cycle location elements. How to recognize yourself through earth, how to recognize yourself through air, how to recognize yourself through water, and how to recognize yourself through fire. Okay, that's 4 line setting, high specification, your 5 elements, which is your 5, which is your heart. It starts identifying you in set location to your soul, to your oversoul of set design. Okay. Try to understand the process now. Okay. You're reaching the higher levels of intelligence of an inner child that comes into the conception, line calculation setting of all travels that it's been through its oversoul. Now, once it comes back to its all communication and all timeline it's been through, its correlation settings, everything comes back in balance of set location. Okay. That's the connections where you're connected to everything and everything's connected to you. Okay. So we're in a 40 track line connections, high center interference, interapplication high system. And the line connections take you guys out through the equation to the holographic lines into the receptor. You guys are out. Okay. So I hope you had fun. I know I did. It's very important you understand what's happening to your settings locations. All right. So in that calculation, there's not going to be any Q&A. I have to get in correlation settings. I'll be off grid for 10 days. Any questions or comments? You can talk to General. Have fun. Have a great weekend. Adios. Do, do, do.